So welcome to our first quarterfinal match here of our Team Constructed Open from Atlanta. On the left, we have the team of Jody, Keith, Todd Stevens, and Tom Ross. Been in first place all tournament long. The only undefeated team from day one. Won the first 5 rounds today as well. This is one of the only teams in the elimination rounds that they have not faced. It's a team of David Long and Rob Long. Brothers here teaming up with Zan Syed. For Zan, it is his second straight open in as many weeks, both with this 4-color Emerge deck.
He's going to be on the draw here against Tom Ross. We're underway.
Yeah, looks like Falconwrath Gorger and Bomat Courier attacking in for Tom. Will put Zan to 17. Both players mulliganed to 6 for this game, and for Tom's side, it looks like he has kept a 1-land opener.
Zan still playing that one Hissing Quagmire. Having it on the first turn is fine, especially with Tom missing his first land drop.
Yeah, it still does cost him, though. You see the Hissing Quagmire plus Blooming Marsh. If they're both Blooming Marshes, this Vessel of Nascency could be used right away.
Vessel specifically being the draw. Very unfortunate.
Tom swings in again for 3. Zan's deck, not too many early cards. No Fatal Push, and Tom knows it. Decklists are public, so you see right into that open black mana, a turn 2 Built to Smash on his Bomat Courier to add 3 more damage.
Yeah, Tom just valuing using his mana efficiently. Also, as the Bomat Courier gets more and more cards under it, just getting those cards out of his hand that allow him to draw back up.
Well, Zan's deck doesn't play very many blockers. Built to Smash a card that can clear through blockers, but if you're not going to use it for that, it's just a Lava Spike, and that was a pretty safe spot for Tom to use it.
Right.
Zan will cast Prized Amalgam, speaking though of the few blockers he has. It's going to be a 3/3 standing in the way of this pair of creatures.
We'll see if Tom has another Built to Smash. It looks like he has access to a Braid if he wants to go that route.
Yeah, he has a Braid to remove it. I think he does have a lot of options, actually. A Braid, Built to Smash, and On-Crop Crasher were all in hand. He went with the Braid because he didn't have the mana for the Crasher.
Yeah, well, if the block's on Falconwrath Gorger, then the Built to Smash is not very effective. You don't get to trample over for anything.
Sure. And Zan's down to 8. Between that Built to Smash, though, and the Crasher, we could see a quick game 1.
Yes.
Back over to Syed we will go. Collective Brutality in hand. But he may not have the land, so the choice will be whether or not to crack Vessel to attempt to get the land for Collective Brutality.
Yeah, he already has black mana here. His deck is heavy on these fast lands here, the Blooming Marshes, what have you. So a lot of his 4th lands do enter the battlefield tapped. It is a little bit of a risk to dig for that.
Yeah, there's actually only 6 lands in his deck that would enter the battlefield untapped right here. So you're absolutely right. This is a risk. And it's one that he just can't take. He'll cast Collective Brutality, double escalating it. So -2/-2 to the Courier, takes an instant from Tom Ross's hand, and that hits on the second Built to Smash, and drains Tom for 2 life, and goes back up to 10. This was a great call for Syed.
Yeah, puts Kozilek's Return and Haunted Dead in the graveyard, that Amalgam back there. Putting himself in a really strong position here. If Tom can find a land and play the Crasher, that'll change the texture of the game a little bit.
And we were nearing a spot where Tom could have used Bomat Courier to discard his hand and actually Madnessed in the other Falconwrath Gorger.
Doesn't come up too often, but yeah.
And there's land 4 for Syed, but it is a tap land, a Blooming Marsh. So Zan at 10. Tom draws Magma Spray.
That one, not great here.
Yeah, Magma Spray still could be live. Zan's deck does play 4 copies of Grimflayer. He's at Creature, Sorcery, Instant in graveyard right now. With that Vessel up, probably wouldn't see it get hit by Magma Spray.
Zan has a couple cards in hand, access to Vessel as well. Good chance he wants to use this turn, bringing back Haunted Dead. Can use the Spirit Token off that to block one of these Gorgers. With that happening in combat, the Crasher wouldn't be able to invalidate the Spirit Token as a blocker, though. If Tom hits the land for the Crasher, Zan will need more than that to catch up in this game. And we're already at 8. This deck has quite a bit of reach, though. Tom does need to find some more mana to access a lot of that. You see he has Ramunap Runes, but he'll need 3 more lands to ever activate that one.
Traverse will be cast for Zan. No Delirium, so it just can find a basic. He'll get his second island. That will enable Elder Deep Fiends down the line.
Be 1 mana short of activating Haunted Dead and emerging a Deep Fiend if you had access to that this turn.
So first traverses and then uses Vessel. See. Champion of Wills found off those top 4 cards.
3 lands. Those ones not very exciting.
Takes the champion. Now this sequencing, he went for Traverse first, which means he can't cast champion this turn. Though it looks like if he's committed to Haunted Dead anyway, this really doesn't matter.
Just pitch those last 2 cards, get the Haunted Dead out there.
Sure. Zan at 8. It's 2 hits from these Falconwrath Gorgers. Tom's hand is On-Crop Crasher and the draw out that he just made.
Magma Spray.
Right, does have the Magma Spray. We're on Tom's side.
Tom weighing his options. That Haunted Dead that can trigger in combat, and that would make a Spirit Token to block one of the Gorgers here.
Three cards there in hand for Tom. Okay.
It was 2 piles. One of them was 2 cards.
One of them was 2, okay. And picked up a mountain as his 3rd one. So On-Crop Crasher actually is an option. And there will be Land Crasher, a swing for 7.
Likely throwing one of those Gorgers into a Spirit Token, but connecting for 5 damage in the process.
Well, and I like the sell and the decision from Tom. Yes, he's throwing a creature away, but Zan has 2 cards in hand. If he brings back Haunted Dead, there's a trade. Zan takes 5, and Magma Spray is the last card in Tom's hand. It matches up really nicely.
If he had a mana for it this turn, it certainly would, though the Deep Fiend would have to come off the top of Zan's deck.
Right.
And this is a swing for 7. Going down to 1 against this 4 Sun-Scorched Desert deck is a pretty precarious spot. And Zan, do you see him mark his life total there? He's just taking it.
Goes to 1. You see Deep Fiend already in Zan's hand.
Oh, yeah, with the Deep Fiend in the hand.
That's really smart, yeah.
He just draws another card that he can discard for the Haunted Dead, then he'll be able to emerge Deep Fiend here.
And remember, when we look at Tom's deck, you'd be thinking, hey, an Incendiary Flow, something like that could work. Tom's removal spells, and we've noted this, are actually not burn spells. He's not, you know, instead of Shocks and Incendiary Flows, he's playing Magma Sprays and Abrades.
Here on the upkeep, you'll see Haunted Dead activating, pitching the non-Deep Fiend cards.
Here's Haunted Dead. I'll bring back a Spirit Token. With that Spirit Token trigger on the stack, Zan will emerge Elder Deep Fiend.
Yep, this will make it so the Kozilek's Return happens, and then the Spirit Token will show up. So Zan gets a 5/6 and a 1/1 flyer.
Taps out Tom's lands, brings back Kozilek's Return. He has stabilized for the time being at 1 life.
He'll have to close the game quickly.
Yeah, cards like On-Crop Crasher off the top are really scary here.
Sun-Scorched Desert.
Oh gosh, Tom plays 4, doesn't he? Our first result is in. Over in the lands mirror, it is David Long winning the first game. He mentioned he's got those Burning Wishes for cards like Hull Breach. On top of that, Bazooka Bog in the main gave him the edge, and he's up a game.
And the return goes off there. Tom tapped out.
And he'll Magma Spray away the token. That makes On-Crop Crasher a live draw, but Tom does not hit.
And Tom peeled Mountain. That means any land off the top of the deck allows him to activate the Ramunap Ruins.
It's got 2 turns to do it, though. Prized Amalgam for Zan on end step means it's exactly 8 power. Tom at a very convenient 16.
Yeah. If he was able to find another Deep Fiend, he could tap these lands down to turn off the land for lethal.
Puts Tom to 8. And you said another Deep Fiend. Well, how about Traverse here for Zan?
That makes it so it has to be Sun-Scorched Desert.
Oh, wow.
Weird as that is to say.
All right. Tom is on, yeah, I believe a 4-outer here. Upkeep, Elder Deep Fiend emerges, taps Tom's lands. And Sun-Scorched Desert, it is Magma Spray. And game 1 goes to Zan Syed.
What he needed to do was find return. He did.
Wow. And
that Collective Brutality was clutch. That was worth
great,
a lot of life in that game.
Well, it found the build to smash. I mean, that card's not
gained
likely
2
to hit,
life,
yeah.
and he ended the game on 1. Killed a creature.
A Bomat Courier with 3 cards under it. It was a huge play.
Yeah, that was clutch.
So Zan survives at 1, and now he joins his teammate David Long up a game, trying to be the team that dethrones Keith, Stevens, and Ross here. All right, let's take some look through the sideboards. Tom Ross's side, he has 3 Blazing Volleys, 2 Aethersphere Harvesters, 2 Harsh Mentors, 2 Hanweir Garrisons, an Invigorated Rampage, a Chandra's Defeat, a Magma Spray, that would be the 4th one, a copy of Eldrazi Obligator, the 3rd Chandra Torch of Defiance, and a Karizev's Expertise.
So these threatened effects are actually pretty powerful against Elder Deep Fiend.
Yeah.
When you're in a position where your opponent casting Deep Fiend to trigger Kozilek's Return is a big part of their game plan. Just having this extra punch to get in for 5 or 8 damage with the Obligator is very powerful.
Now in that game, every time Zan cast Elder Deep Fiend, it was tapping Tom's lands on his upkeep.
Yeah.
So will he be able to find a window to use cards like Obligator and Expertise?
It's tougher to convert the Expertise. The Obligator at least comes with a body attached. You can just cast that one on turn 3, so that one is going to be better in the matchup. Having ways to get Trample, it's all right here. Hanweir Garrison as a 2/3 will beat the front side of Kozilek's Return. That one seems significant. You know, sometimes you will just lose to the front side being cast, so that hedges against that. Harsh Mentor is actually pretty interesting here. Zan is playing a deck that's playing 4 Evolving Wilds, so Mentor can get in some shocks here, which is pretty neat here. For the most part, though, just comes some minor upgrades.
Yeah. On Zan's side, and I think he stands to actually to gain more here. He's got 3 Fatal Push, 3 Yahenni's Expertise, 2 Liliana the Last Hope, a 3rd copy of Collective Brutality, a Manglehorn, a Tireless Tracker, and a Kalitas, an Ishkana, a Distended Mindbender, and a copy of Never to Return.
There's a lot of great cards here.
Yeah, this is good.
Fatal Push to lower your mana curve, 1/1 some creatures. Yahenni's Expertise as a sweeper that also lets you commit something else to the board after the fact. Liliana the Last Hope kills a lot of the creatures in Tom's deck. You saw Collective Brutality be great in game 1. No reason that changes in the post-sideboard games.
Yeah.
Kalitas and Ishkana also great.
So you're mentioning there's about 10 cards here, and I agree these are all good against an aggro deck. So the Emerge package is really strong, but does he cut down on some of that and just become a fair deck?
Yeah, you want to just kind of bias yourself towards mana efficiency. You still have a lot of your graveyard shenanigans. This Scrap Heap Scrounger, that's for sure coming out of the deck. When you have a lot of cards that you actually want to draw, Champion of Wits loses a lot of value, especially costing 3 mana in this matchup.
Yeah, and you're never going to eternalize it at a relevant point.
Right.
And a 2/1 for 3 isn't the best rate on a creature.
The mana inefficiency of Vessel of Nascency suggests that you can go lower on that one, though. The Scrounger and the Champion of Wits are certainly the first thing you look at. Grim Flayer is not very impressive, but once you get it with Delirium, it's such a good blocker. And even just 2 mana trade with some creature is reasonable.
Yeah, a 2 mana 4/4 does a good Tarmogoyf impression late in the game, and Tarmogoyf generally good against mono red. But I see what you mean where when it's just a 2/2 early on, I'm not very into it.
Right.
So we'll get ready for a second game here. Over at StarCityGames.com, we have the Star City Games newsletter. This is mails out each week and lands right into your inbox. We have upcoming dates and locations here for the Star City Tour. You can find invitational qualifiers and game nights, find places to play, get highlights from some of our best articles, and there's some original content in the newsletter from top pros on the SCG Tour. And the best part of it, it's free to sign up for. StarCityGames.com/newsletter. You oftentimes see here players still contemplating their sideboard. In a top 8 scenario, you do get access to opponents' deck lists. They can't be used during the match, but between rounds you're allowed to look at this.
Right. So you kind of figure out what's coming in between games. Can plan around that.
Now keep in mind, as we're watching Standard here, this is the last Hour of Devastation event before the Pro Tour hits. A lot of times, Pro Tour kind of is a bellwether for the upcoming Standard format. So nothing's really known yet, or we're still figuring it out. We saw this week Mono Red Aggro become the most popular deck on day 2 by a wide margin. It was a deck that was virtually unknown just 7 days ago.
Yeah, that one's ticking up in a big way.
And I wonder whether we'll see a merge tick up as well. Zan top 4ing the Open last weekend with this deck, and now another top 8. That speaks well for it.
Deck has some weaknesses. There are decks that are just main decking as scavenger grounds. That can be really rough for the Emerge deck. Just a land that incidentally eats graveyards.
Yeah.
You're also kind of poor against Torrential Gear Hulk because it's also a 5/6, and it arguably has significantly more upside than Elder Deep Fiend.
Yeah, as a 5/6 Torrential Gear Hulk, that 6 point of toughness is really good against the Emerge deck. And when it's attacking with 5/6 and hitting Krell's Lex Return, which is 5 damage on the way back.
Yeah, playing with the deck, it felt like a lot of the matchups, they were pretty lopsided. When you were favored, it felt like you were favored by a lot, and when you were unfavored, it felt pretty hopeless.
Final round are being posted. Once again, 3 p.m. Legacy players, your pairings.
With the Haunted Dead and the Prized Amalgams, you do have a lot of game against the control decks. It's the graveyard hate that really does you in, though.
We have a match result here in Modern. Todd Stevens takes the first game for his team with Green White Company. Wins game 1 off Rob Long. This is a matchup we've been seeing him win all day.
Yeah, this is really the matchup that he wants. At a glance, it's surprising. This green-white creature deck is the deck that's beating up on this deck that's really taken a hold of the format. But the Ghost Quarters, all these clean answers, sticky creatures. Sometimes Night of the Reliquary just gets bigger than Death Shadow.
Yeah, it's the right mix. I mean, on the surface, it looks a little strange because Death Shadow and Gurmag Angler are bigger than the creatures in Todd's deck. But because he has so many quality 3-drops, he's resilient to Thoughtseize in a lot of ways.
He's really resilient to Fatal Push.
Yeah, you have to revolt a Fatal Push. If you Thoughtseize his 3-drop, he'll play another. Tom on the play of game 2, both players keeping 7. No 1-drop.
The StarCityGames.com sales booth will be closing at the end of this round of Swiss.
And for Zan, it'll be a copy of Traverse on the first turn.
Purchases you'd like to make before you leave or they close down, please make sure you do so in the next 40 minutes or so.
Set up a basic island here. There is some tension on his deck in this matchup. It's one of the few matchups where he actually needs his 4th color, which is red.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of times where he's going to want to cast the front side of Kozilek's Return.
Yeah, so getting that while still getting double blue for Elder Deep Fiend later on is tricky. Zan's side, he gets hit for 2 by Earthshaker Kenra. We'll go back to him. We saw in a close 3 games just a week ago, Zan win this matchup against Jonathan Job. At that time, Job's deck was more of a mid-range red, however.
Yeah, Tom's deck a lot lower to the ground, able to punch through damage quickly.
Collective Brutality here for Zan. After sideboard, he has 3. We'll see how much escalating he'll do with the card.
If you already have Amalgams and Haunted Deads in hand, certainly Haunted Deads, escalating those ones pretty free.
And this is interesting. He has a Grim Flare, and rather than cast it here, it looks like he may discard it to the Collective Brutality.
When it's just on blocking and trading duty, a removal spell does more work than the Flare itself.
Yeah, there's some idea that he could discard the other card types and cast Grim Flare if he can make it up to a 4/4.
Once it's a 4/4, that does change the equation.
It looks like he'll escalate once, discard, and ends up just discarding it. So, kills the Kenra, and he's going to go and look at Tom's hand. Tom has Hanweir Garrison and 4 lands.
That's not a discardable hand. Not a great
it's
hand.
A swing and a miss.
It's the requisite lands to, in 4 turns, eternalize the Kenra.
Yeah, this is really interesting. The bad news for Zan is the Grim Flare didn't trade for anything. It got thrown away. The good news is Once Zan plays the Never to return, the Never next turn, as long as he has the untapped black for it, Tom's playing off the top of the deck.
Yep. Ooh, and a mountain
draws
there.
a mountain, yeah, that's not help. Plays Ramanap Ruins and Hanweir Garrison.
Evolving Wilds off the top.
Some mana. This is going to hurt. Evolving Wilds and Basic Island both in hand for Zan. You know, this is going to hurt. He traversed on turn 1 for that Basic Island.
This mana base is great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. It is right. If you go back and say, hey, if he had traversed for a swamp, this would be much easier. There's no way for him to know that.
Yeah, this is just a thing that happens to this deck.
Right. And it's a big punishment. Garrison getting removed immediately and Garrison getting an attack in are two very different outcomes.
And honestly, you want the basic forest so that you can traverse or vessel on turn 1, cast Flare on turn 2. But drawing forest when you also draw your multicolor lands is really unfortunate.
Tom will swing in for 4 with the Garrison. And you watch here, Tom drawing another mountain. His hand's is not working out for him. He's doing just the right amount of pause, though, to sell that he has something going on.
Right. And now that he's made those tokens with the Garrison, he'll be able to keep up some pressure. Just 2 mana away from eternalizing the Kenra that comes back as a 4/4 with haste.
Yeah. Do you think he builds up to the 6, or does he just start going to work with Ramanap Ruins?
You got to build up to the 6 first.
Prized Amalgam the draw for Zan. Turn earlier, that actually would have been nice. As a 3/3, it would have been quite the play. He will cast Never. And actually, Ryan, the Never to return, second half of that is just on curve for Zan.
Yeah, Tom, he won't be able to get to 6 mana before the return exiles that.
2 more damage off the tokens, sends Zan to 12. Tom casts Soul Scar Mage.
Right on time.
Yeah. Zan draws a tap land. This is going to work out very nicely. It's a tap land for Zan. It's a second blue.
Okay.
On the board, tap land into return. Looks good. He's got something else in mind. Maybe something better. Here's Champion of Wits.
I can trade with these 1/1s or the unprowessed Soulscar Mage.
See, he's examining his options for discard. It does look like he has a copy of Ishkana, Graph Widow, in hand.
So with no graveyard hate, this is playing into the Kenra for this turn.
Yeah. Creature.
That will allow Tom to punch through for 7.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage. Let's see, maybe he has another play. Looks like another Collective Brutality. He'll use that to remove Soulscar Mage.
So now Tom can only crash across for 6.
Yeah, seems great to me. That's what he'll do. He will Eternalize the Earthshaker Kenra. Get a 4/4. Haste. And swings in, can't block. Zan down to 6. And now you have to worry about Ramanap Ruins finishing it out.
Yeah, just 3 activations. Of course, currently he just has the 1 Ruins and a Sunscorched Desert in hand. And the kill of 4/4, it's a little bit of a tall order for Zan. You really have to flashback the Kozilek's Return or have one of the clean answers out of the sideboard.
Champion of Wits is cast. It draws into Kozilek's Return, which he'll discard. He doesn't have enough blue mana to make Elder Deep Fiend. Gonna cast Traverse. See, instant, sorcery, creature, land. That'll work. See if he wants the Deep Fiend. He doesn't have second blue, so he looks for Kalitas. And he'll play that. It's going to go alongside the Ishkana. That's the last card in his hand.
Yeah, both great blockers.
Yeah, but Ramanap Ruins
Can't block that.
Yeah, there's damage that you can't block, and it's looming.
With these creatures on the battlefield, if Zan doesn't have a Fatal Push, Tom gets through one in combat here, plays the Desert, that's another one. Ruins activation at end step, Ruins activation on his turn.
Yeah, and he doesn't. His 2 cards are the Ishkana and the Kalitas. And from time you'll see it's even worse. Here's On-Crop Crasher. Attack, Exert. No block from one of the champions, and it's going to have to block the 4/4, but Zan still takes 5.
He is the 1 and the dead.
And there's the Sunscorched Desert. So Tom Ross forces a 3rd game. That was a hand I didn't think he was going to be able to get there with.
That was a big misstep by Zan not playing the return on the Kenra.
Yeah, the Earthshaker Kenra, so many points of damage.
Especially just to play Champion of Wits and not do much.
Yeah, and it's rare. He had a window where to take 2 straight games off Tom Ross, and that's not easy.
Right.
And you have to feel that Tom may not give him that opportunity again.
He will get to be on the play here. So there's that.
Yeah, I'll get to be on the play. We do see that he went for Kalitas and Ishkana out of the sideboard. Never to return. We saw that as well. Certainly lower to the ground, which I do like in this matchup. But has stayed with Champion of Wits. And I'm interested by that. You mentioned it's a 2-1 for 3, so could be weaker in this matchup. The card is just so powerful that I understand him just not ever moving off it.
Could have got off of Grapple just because that one can take some setup.
Sure.
It's kind of high variance, which you can't afford to do in this matchup.
Tom looking back through his sideboard here. All right, Tom will be on the draw here, though, with his mono red deck. Now, for Tom Ross, 2 invitational wins, one of them with mono red. That was a few years ago. He won back-to-back invitationals with both Infect and mono red. The 33-year-old now living in Roanoke, Virginia, originally from Louisiana. You see his stats, and you'd think he has been playing on the tour since it started. That wouldn't be the case. These are almost all in the last 3 years. 5 open wins, 16 top 8s. 4 invitational top 8s and 2 wins.
Known for a couple specific archetypes for a long time, though in recent memory, he's really demonstrated quite the range. Obviously this week playing mono red, a beatdown deck, but we see him winning in open with Tron in modern and with top 8ing in open with 8-rack.
Yeah, one of the things I really actually like when I watch Tom play is he has this ability to play a lot of different focused decks. I think if you want to say what's in common with a deck like 8-rack and Tron and mono red, is these are decks whose game plans don't vary all that much. They, from the get-go, they want to do one thing and they want to do it very well.
Sure.
Tom very, very adept at just finding the small edges that make those decks do their one thing just a little bit better. Go there, Todd, in second game, along with Jody Keith over on your left. Now at StarCityGames.store, we have our Star City Games t-shirts. It's the official apparel of the SCG Tour. You can get these at StarCityGames.com and pick them up at any of our open events there. StarCityGames.com/apparel.
And the official apparel of Tom Ross.
Right there. His hair's a little longer now, though. Noticing that.
But just a little.
Just a little. You see, Tom, no leather jacket today. We are in Atlanta.
It is hot here.
Yeah. All right, game 3. Falkenrath Gorger from Tom. Zan starting on Evolving Wilds. And you forget, let's go back to that second game. Zan's mana cost him a turn.
Yes.
A lot. That cost.
That happens with this mana base, that is for sure.
So being on the play and getting to start off on Evolving Wilds on turn 1, it's very nice for him.
And Tom leading on Ramunap Ruins, not basic mountain, so he takes some damage, but this isn't a matchup where that'll add up in a meaningful way. Unless he has to take like 7 points.
Yeah, there's a point at which taking so much damage off your own lands will allow Zan to start racing back. But that number's not 1 or 2. You'd have to take 5. for Zan, his turn 2 play is Grim Flayer, makes that off Blooming Marsh.
And that's a card that can apply pressure, that's for sure.
Does Tom have a second land? You mentioned when he started on Ramanap Ruins, you're concerned that it was a 1-lander. Tom was on the draw. His deck is the type of deck that would keep a 1-land hand on the draw.
He's super low to the ground.
Yeah. Swings with Gorger. I don't know if there's a second one in here, Ryan. Based on that attack. Okay, he does. Sunscorched Desert, swings and then plays it.
Shows what
and then
you know.
Scrap Heap Scrounger. No, he got me too. Well, I saw the Earthshaker Kenra in his hand and just thought, man, that looks like a great turn.
Right.
But
in the following
this
turn,
was good.
With the Scrounger, you can push through even more damage.
Yeah, that wasn't a play of weakness. That was a play of strength.
Yeah. You know, frequently you'll want to leverage your haste creatures, play them after your non-haste creatures. In particular, the Kenra with that ability to remove a blocker from that combat.
Yeah. And now Zan's in this spot where he'd love to attack with Grim Flayer, except that he also needs it as a blocker. But at the same time, if he leaves it, he's not even sure it will block. Tom has 8 cards in his deck that remove blockers.
Right.
How could Zan's life total possibly be 17? Never mind.
Traverse is the play for Zan. He'll find an island. Making that play before combat. That shows that I think he's going to swing with Grim Flayer. Or just pass, I guess. But
One of those things.
whatever. It means
You could see
means
one of those
nothing.
situations where you have grapple as a combat trick when it's used as a blocker.
I like that. Here's the hit with Grim Flayer. Top 3 cards. Another Grim Flayer, a Forest, and a Sunken Hollow. So he can't get his Flare up to a 4/4. And the question now he has to ask is, does he want to get rid of the Grim Flayer to get one closer to Delirium, or does he just want to start making more of these 4/4 blockers?
If he has an instant in his hand, dumping the flare would make it so the current one is a 4/4.
Yeah, especially if the instant is grapple, something with like that. Means he might still get the Flare back anyway. Zan's going, looks like he's going to put all 3 in the graveyard.
The land's not too enticing. Nothing rare like a basic mountain.
Yeah, there's 1 basic mountain in his deck.
Yes. That is the only red source. Can be fetched with Evolving Wilds. Though post-sideboard, with these Yahendi's expertise, you do see 1 in the hand there. A little less important to actually cast the Kozilek's Return because he has access to a different sweeper. Zan thinking about collective brutality here, likely thinking about what and if to discard.
Yeah, that's a sorcery, so it still doesn't add to his Delirium. Right, collective brutality. Discarding Blooming Marsh to escalate. Targeting Scrap Heap Scrounger, and I think we're doing Duress again. We'll see Tom's hand. Bomat Courier, Earthshaker Kenra, Land, Hanwer Garrison, and that might be Uncrop Crasher, and if that's the case, these are all creatures.
I believe it is. Looks like a Foreboding Ruins is the land as well.
This is a really tough hand for Zan to beat.
Well, he can take nothing with this discard spell, which is already bad news.
Right.
And it's just a ton of great creatures. If Tom finds a mountain and can play that untapped, or the Foreboding Ruins untapped this turn, he can apply a lot of pressure very quickly. Even without it, he still has a couple plays. And then can also just start playing 3-mana creatures on the following turn.
Well, back over to Tom. Right now, he's still able to press damage and has more cards in hand. We see Gorger will swing. We see a cast of another Scrap Heap Scrounger and passes. This does mean that Tom's not going to be able to block.
Tom's not in the market for blocking.
Well, there's a bit of a concern. Zan's pickup that turn was Kalitas. And if he hits the Grimflayer to a 4/4 and makes Kalitas as a blocker, Tom had a lot of great creatures, but he actually doesn't have a way to deal with a 3/4 lifelink.
Yeah, the lifelink on the crackback is relevant. You know, you can use Crasher to manage it a little bit, but it doesn't solve the entire problem. And then when Zan follows that up with Yahenni's expertise, that might just end the game on the spot.
Yeah, we see Expertise, Liliana, the Last Hope, and Champion of Wits as the Grimflayer cards. Liliana's looks like a card you might want to put in the graveyard. It would be the 4th card type.
Yeah, he's already got such a great play on the battlefield as is.
Yeah, I wonder if he has the untapped land just to make Kalitas this turn. It would actually, and we look at the mana again, not just any untapped land would do either. It'd have to be the basic swamp, or I guess one of his Battle for Zendikar.
Sunken Hollow.
Yeah, it's one of his, he does have 2 basics, so one of those would work.
He milled over one of those earlier.
It didn't put one on top with Grimflayer, I believe, right? He put one in the graveyard.
Right.
Let's see if any of these, which ones Zan wants to draw. He will put all of them in the graveyard. And correct here, that was Haunted Dead, Liliana, and Champion. The Henny's already in his hand. But Sunken Hollow is there. Now Flayer's a 4/4. Here's Yahenni's Expertise. He'll clear the board and cast Traverse. Traverse is online with Delirium. I like how this is going. He's only 1 land off Ishkana, but passes it over. See where he's headed? Looks like Kalitas. And is this, I think he had one in hand.
I'd be surprised if that was true.
2. Okay, so he didn't have that. He only plays 1. Well, now it is in his hand. So it all works out in the end. His hand, so 4/4 Flare, he's cleared Tom's board. And despite having all these creatures, Tom's just getting valued out of the game.
Yeah. You know, Zan looks to be pretty well stabilized at 15 life. That is a pretty tall order to punch through.
We have our first finished match, and it's in Modern. Todd Stevens, again, a 2-0 winner over Grixis Shadow. It's the deck he built Company to beat, and it has done just that. He'll win the Modern match, and now he looks over to teammate Tom Ross, and hope that Tom can win the round. On-crop Crasher swings in.
He does still have a couple haste creatures in hand, the Earthshaker Kenra and Bomat Courier, though they're pretty small ones.
Zan's going to cast the Kalitas, the one he found last turn.
Expect Zan to hang back with the Grimflayer this turn just because the Cracksure can exert on the Kalitas, force some damage through.
Right. Zan's going to pass. And this, one thing I do like, I believe Zan has another Yahenni's Expertise. So sitting back on these X4s when he knows Tom's hand is full of X3s. I mean, with this, if he has it, this Kalitas should win the game for him.
Yeah. It's going to make some zombies. 2 zombies. In addition to 7 power on the battlefield.
Wow. And here it is, Yahenni's Expertise. All creatures get -3/-3. Zan's live. Tom's both died. They both exile. Zan gets 2 zombies.
And he still gets to attack for 1 with the Flare.
Oh, and he gets the Flare trigger too, doesn't he? 1 damage. Tom goes to 14. Top 3 cards. Prized Amalgam, Botanical Sanctum, Evolving Wilds. Doesn't want any of those.
Does have Haunted Dead already in the graveyard, so that Amalgam can return.
Wow. Another Garrison from Tom. It's the best he can do here.
It's going to take more than that.
Yeah. The Kalitas, huge, or the potential to be huge with these zombies. Tom can't block. It's going to lifelink through. He might be able to steal with a Karizev's Expertise or something like that. But Eyes, if this goes, Eyes might be on the Legacy match where the players are now just starting to shuffle for Game 3 as Jody Keith, after sideboard, has evened things up.
Okay.
This hit Tom down to 7, Zan up to 15, a Grim Flare trigger.
Yeah, and Zan's playing it safe. No real reason to sacrifice the zombies.
Right.
They're just fine hanging out. The Kalitas already sizes up very well for the matchup. Plenty of life to play with. 3-power lifelink, really good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, here's Haunted Dead from Syed. He's deciding if he wanted to cast one from his hand or bring one back from his graveyard. Looks like he's chosen the second. And Tom Ross. The issue is he's behind in the race, and once he gets to that point, his deck doesn't block very well.
Right. There's a lot of blockers. It's way harder to cheat through damage. Your Kenras, your Crashers, they're only good on one creature. Tom going to give it a think. He's not just going to give anything away here.
Play cast Earthshaker Kenra. One of the zombies can't block, which means there's no double block on the Garrison, so he'll swing both in. Get a pair of 1/1s. Zan brings back Haunted Dead.
That'll give him a Spirit token to block for this turn.
Sure.
Pretty easy block on the Kenra.
And it puts the 2/2 in front of a token. So he'll take 3, go to 12. Tom will lose two creatures, and one of them, the Kenra, exiles and another zombie for Zan.
And Zan should be rumbling across for lethal here.
Sure looks like it. Tom, a land and 2 1-drop blockers.
And I think that those will make this attack not less lethal.
Yeah, he's surprised Amalgam can join on in. But you block the 2 largest creatures, the pair of 3s, he is still taking 10.
Yeah, you can't chump block Grimflare.
Brutality on a blocker. Zan Syed, 4-color Emerge, takes the match. Zan with top 4 last weekend, looking to make his way back there. He's taking care of business, and now all eyes move over to Legacy,
where we have the very exciting Lands Mirror.
Yeah, we get 1 game of it, which is just about right.
It's still too much.
I kind of liken the Lands Mirror to, it's like how I feel about coleslaw, where I really, I like just a, you know, it's okay, it's okay.
You're really selling it.
I'm selling it, you know. No, when you have chicken, you get some of it, but just a little bit. You know, you never go back for seconds on coleslaw, because that's, you want the other stuff, but a little bit of it's nice.
The Lands Mirror, it's like 2 small spoons of coleslaw.
Yeah, that's about, I think you get it. That is exactly right.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. This is a very chess match of a matchup.
Of the prison mirrors in Legacy, this is the most exciting. There is the most play to it.
I like it more than, say, like the mono red sneak attack mirror. You know, that one's just
Blood Moon you back.
Well, players just kind of place the mountains, and then someone, I don't know, plays some 5-drop. And
one thing about the Lands Mirror, a number of the games do boil down to simple things, which can be unfortunate. Exploration advantage, just pulling ahead on lands. If you have exploration advantage and find loam, you'll just crush the other player. Fast 20/20 for one player can be hard to deal with. You have to have wastes or ghost quarters, and if they just have exploration advantage, that's really easy to set up.
yeah, we were talking before this round with Daryl Ayers about the land matchup, saying, hey, we have 2 of, you know, they know each other. These guys talk. Said, hey, Jody and David are going to be playing a Lands Mirror. Tell us a bit about how they play it. So one of the things first said is that loam advantage is key.
Yes.
If both players want loam advantage, if neither has loam or both have loam, then you're looking for exploration advantage.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, I suppose post-sideboard this is evened out, but
right.
David Long had a main deck Bajuka Bog. Jody Keith had one coming in out of the sideboard.
Yeah, and Daryl's saying that main deck Bog is no joke. It's very relevant in this matchup.
Mm-hmm. And Long did win game number 1, with Jody winning the second game here.
It's like mulligans from both sides. Now, I wonder in this matchup if it comes down to a lot of linear things like loam advantage, that's going to encourage both players to mulligan more aggressively.
Probably takes a really good hand without exploration to be keepable on 7. Good chance that you largely want to mulligan to that card specifically.
Well, exploration or life from the loam?
That one's great too.
Right, if you have a loam hand, maybe you can keep without exploration.
If you have a really good setup, you know,
yeah,
Mox diamond, fetch land, turn 1 quality loam with some utility, say a wasteland in the mix.
Right, if you're down on explorations, you do have to worry about early on getting wasted and ported out. Now, eventually, if the person with the exploration isn't capitalizing with their own loam, I mean, you'll draw more lands eventually, and the loam will, if they're wastelanding you, loam solves that.
Yes.
Real interesting stuff, though. See on 6s. David Long, I presume, is on the play here. A first quarterfinal match in the books. The number 2 seed, the team of Victor Logan, Lucas Parson, and Evan Smith. They are your winners. They defeat Manny Colazzo, Zachary Plott, and Mike Warren.
And Jody being pretty deliberate about his scry here. Got a maybe on the top. David Long had one that goes to the bottom. Jody Keith did keep on top.
All right. All right, turn 1 from David Long. Mox Diamond discards Misty Rainforest and Verdant Catacombs. So 2 fetch lands into the graveyard. You talked about how a good loam would certainly be a keep. See if that's the follow-up for David. It would be very nice here.
Yeah, just a couple fetch lands demonstrated so far. It's a fine loam, but just getting the engine going is nice.
2 mana. It will be Cunning Wish from David Long.
Burning Wish.
Burning Wish, thank you. Burning Wish from Long, and that finds loam. This is one of the innovations that Long is playing this weekend. I mentioned an early quality loam. This is close. It's the same thing, but it's a turn delayed.
Yep, and that's relatively fine. You know, you miss on 1 dredge.
Right. There's a chance that Jody could wasteland you here, and if he doesn't have the second green, things could become problematic.
Pretty high odds that he does have the second green, but you're right.
Yeah, well, he has the diamond. He would need, I guess, just a mana-producing land. David actually has an interesting wish board here. Another card that may come up. He has a copy of Hull Breach in his sideboard. It's a 2-mana card that could destroy both an artifact and an enchantment.
Right, the big hit in this matchup is going to be exploration. You wouldn't wish for that just to hit Mox Diamond, but you can hit both if they're both presented. Jody taking his time on the turn 1 play here. Looks like he'll also be committing more than 1 card on the first turn.
Windswept Heath is the start. So Jody has. Does he have an exploration? Talked about getting exploration advantage important, though. From what I was told, the loam eventually overpowers exploration. Yeah. See if he has, but both would be very nice.
Right, the combination of the 2 certainly beats either individual one.
Here's Taiga. Exploration and Thespian Stage. So I guess we get to see each player has one, but not the other.
For now.
For now. David Long, at least for now, keeping pace on mana. He had the Mox Diamond. Depending on how many lands Jody has, let's see how long that lasts for.
And Long's going to want to set up some lands that do more than tap for mana, so he can interact with relevant things here.
At 3 mana, David Long Krosan grips away the exploration.
Yeah, so exploration out. Long still has life from the loam. But Jody did just draw
Jody
one.
draws one, yeah. Game's still on. Jody's play. He'll cast his own life from the loam, gets back Windswept Heath, plays it for the turn. Oh, no, just put it into his hand, deciding on his turn, on his play.
He has Dark Depths in hand. Just don't really want to expose that to Wasteland before you have to.
Yeah, well, one of the things we were saying that Darryl was saying in the mirror, the ability to combo or to go for the combo is going to be deprioritized by both players here. A lot of times there's too many Wastelands to make a 20-20. There's too much Karakas to bounce the 20-20. They're really playing for board control. These fast combo kills are not a focus.
Right.
So now
You know, sometimes you just have the green light.
Yeah.
You know, there's no Wasteland presented just yet. Karakas can be a little bit difficult to find, though there are multiple Mazaviths in the deck.
Right, for long side here, so things are actually pretty even. Both players with 3 mana sources and now have a life from the loam going. See another Krosan Grip in Long's hand. No targets for that yet. Looking at their sideboards, there are Tireless Trackers in Keith's sideboard, none for David Long. And Long's going to make a crop rotation, getting rid of Grove of the Burn Willows. He pauses. I suppose there's always the chance that Jody can crop rotate into Pajuka Bog. And you see David immediately, he's going to bog Keith off that crop rotation. Did he get the loam? He did. The defense there would be Jody could have had a Tranquil Thicket to save his loam.
There's one Tranquil Thicket in the deck.
So I guess if he does that, then he loses his Tranquil Thicket, which...
That's something.
That's something.
I think that Jody has Gamble in hand, so if he wants another loam, he can get it.
Okay. And now that he had put the land into the graveyard, David Long will cast Loam, getting back all 3 lands. 2 fetch lands and a Grove of the Burn Willows. We'll see what Jody does. He fetches here as well. I suppose the life in the loam's exposed on David Long's side. We could see David could get bogged back.
Jody also has the option where he can play Dark Depths, leave up Thespian Stage, watch Long dredge the life from the loam, see if any problematic lands show up, and go for the 20-20 on draw step if it looks good.
Sure. Surgical Extraction from Jody Keith. It's a 2 of in his sideboard. He's doing it targeting the life from the loam. This would be a big win if it happens.
Yeah, and this would show him what Long's holding.
And it's going to work. Loams are gone from David Long's deck. This seems like the most important thing that has happened.
Yes, this is a huge win for Jody. Also, he is still packing that Dark Depths. He also has to fade 1 draw step that would prevent that from being lethal here.
Yeah, he can go for this quickly.
Even if Long has an answer, that's all he's doing is answering the 20-20.
So Long's deck normally is insulated from Surgical Extraction because he puts 1 of his 4 life from the loams in the sideboard to Burning Wish for. However, oh wow, wait, hold on. Did he put 2 in the board?
That's
because I was gonna say that first one he Burning Wished for.
That's pretty neat.
Did he put the second one in the sideboard?
He still technically has 5 life from the loams in his main deck, given the Burning Wish there, right? That's really nice.
There's only 3 in exile. Well played, David Long.
Jody's still,
wow, okay.
Jody's still making a 20-20
there
here,
you
though.
go, yeah. He saw David Long's hand. Here is a 20-20.
That was a clever play, but you can't out-clever a 20-20. He has to find Mazavith or Karakas here.
I like the world's smallest die set to 1 to make a 20-20. And Barbarian Ring drawn from David Long may just be the game. Plays Barbarian Ring, says go.
Can't cross and grip this one.
And 20 points of damage. It's going to be Jody Keith winning the match there. He is victorious, his team is victorious, and the 1 seed moves on. It is Jody Keith, Todd Stevens, and Tom Ross advancing to the top 4.
And Lance has a reputation for being a slow deck, but every time we had it on camera, it's been anything but.
I mean, you'd think for 2 prison decks you wouldn't have a game with as many turns as that. Like
As
turns
few
twisted.
turns?
As